Let's put it on here. And three, two, one. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Technician Podcast. This one I'm really excited for. Trent and I have already connected. I think it was about a week ago now. And he's an epic dude. So welcome, Trent. Introduce yourself, brother. What do you do? Who are you?
Thank you, Travis. My name's Trent John Grubb. I go by TJ with most people that know me. I launched a company 5 years ago called Transform 40, where we focus on transforming the bodies and minds of our youth, done mostly through mindset coaching, nutrition, and fitness. Myself, I'm a new father. So he's approaching 12 months right now. He's the absolute world to me now. But it wasn't always my backstory, wanting children and getting married and things like that. So I'm sure we'll dive into that today. But yeah, I just love seeing people shift in their lives and helping them create that change.
Epic introduction. I appreciate you doing that, bro. It's very efficient. So I can tell that your business and what you do is very efficient too. So just touching on the dad life a little bit, bro. So obviously still quite fresh, 12 months, there's a lot of transitioning in there. How do you feel like you've handled it? Having a successful business, which is quite busy and pretty full on. How was that transition with Bub coming into your life and the new marriage and everything? How's that been?
It was huge. Like anything in life, I think you don't realize that you're struggling while you're in it until you kind of get through the hard part. So if I look back honestly now and I look at the first 3 to 6 months of his life, they would be the hardest months of my life by none. And I'm not trying to scare people out there who are having children, because it's the single greatest thing I've ever done in my life. But it was truly difficult running a couple of businesses. My business partner was away in Europe. Perfect timing. Took off to Europe for 5, 6 weeks at the first start of my baby. Had a bit of staff turnover, things like that. My partner wasn't doing so well. She was struggling a bit mentally. He had silent reflux and had a lot of issues going on at the start. So it was brutal, honestly, mate. But now my life is better than it's ever been. Every single day I see him, play games with him. He runs around like crazy, super developed already. It's changed my life completely. It's made everything new again.
Oh, I love that. And first of all, like props to you, bro. I send so much respect to dads, mums, anyone that's showing up. And because I've seen friends around me and how tough it is bringing babies into this world and raising them and still showing up for work and showing up for each other and then even showing up for self. Do you feel like during that, did you lose yourself a little bit, or were you still able to maintain, the disciplines, the doing, making sure you're doing things for yourself, or did it literally all become about Bub?
It's a good question. I actually did the opposite. So for me, I wasn't looking after myself as well in the lead up. So I think I had this kind of like last hurrah mentality where I'm like, all right, I'm going to go out party with my friends, do all these things, like do all the selfish things now before I have the baby. And then we had him and I wasn't really happy physically, but then mentally I started to shift a bit. And I've taught this stuff for years and I've been a professional athlete and I've always been very disciplined in these areas. And I'm like, okay, I'm not really happy right now. And I feel like I'm out of control. I feel like I don't have control over my mentality completely. I can't control my partner's happiness when it relates to her losing identity, which is a big one we can touch on. And my baby's really hard to control. I don't really understand parenthood yet. And then also my business wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So I'm like, okay, I'm out of control in all these areas. What can I do to feel in control again? What can I focus on? And I went, okay, I'm not going to drink any alcohol for 6 weeks. I'm going to eat perfect. I'm going to train my ass off. I'm going to run. I'm going to do all these things I wasn't doing before at a better level. And that gave me back control. Because I'm like, if you don't control the controllables and you worry about the uncontrollables, you're going to go crazy. And by doing so, I think a part of that leaked into our relationship. It leaked into being a better father, having more energy. And it definitely leaked into my business because I was focused all the time. I wasn't drinking on the weekends and disrupting that flow.
Isn't it almost frustrating knowing that you hear that in the simplicity of it, but it's not easy. It's
No.
simple, but it's not easy. And again, it just shows a testament to how you're built and how you're built differently. And which is a great segue into where it all started, because knowing that this mentality is built over many, many years of, hardships and things that happen to us, and we get into self-development to better ourselves. Where did this all start for young Trent, bro? Like, how far back can we go to when you can sort of remember that you were built different in a sense?
Yeah, it would definitely be my footy days. So I grew up playing rugby union and rugby league. I transitioned to rugby league solely when I was about 16 or 17 when I was playing rep footy for Cronulla Sharks. That led me into having this mindset of I'm either going to win this fitness test or I'm going to pass out or die trying. Like for some reason, I always had this little kind of burning energy inside me that just never wanted to fail at things like that. And then losing my mother at 17 years old forced that to be forged, I guess, harder than anything else. So I lost my grandfather, my uncle, and then my mother all in quick succession. And that led me to think, okay, well, everyone I love leaves or passes away. You only have yourself to rely upon. So excuses weren't going to get me anywhere, because usually excuses you tell to people who are there to help you, or at least listen and make you feel better and give you sympathy. I necessarily didn't have those strong bonds in that situation. So all I had was the results. So I had to let go of the excuses and rely solely on myself to get that result.
Dude, there's a lot to unpack in that. So thank you for sharing that. But the one that stood out for me was then the victim mentality, right? It's the, I think I saw on one of your videos as well, it talked about how much easier it is to rely on your stories and be the victim because everyone
Mm,
loves you. Everyone
mm,
gives you sympathy. Everyone's like, oh, it's okay. You know, how can we help? What's going on? When on the opposite spectrum of it is saying that I'm fine, I'm going to move forward and I'm going to become successful. I'm going to get after it. And then people start to dislike you. Did
mhm.
you go through that phase as well where you thought, yeah, I'm not attaching myself to that identity of being the victim?
Oh God, yeah. I struggle with that too, because my friend group in my late teens, early 20s, I literally had people say to me, we always rely on you, we ask of you and things like that. You seem like you don't need us, and it makes it harder to be your friend.
Wow.
Mm.
So by you not needing them, it makes it hard for them.
Which makes perfect sense, because if we think about vulnerability and connection, I wasn't just self-reliant and non-victim, but I was also not vulnerable. So I was doing a lot wrong in this process
Right.
because I was
So
a
the
young
heart
man.
was, yeah. So were you close, like the heart was, you put some armor on it. You're like, no, I don't need anyone. I don't need to ask for help.
Mhm.
It sort of went probably too far one way.
It did, yeah. So I've now got the what I believe a really healthy mix of showing vulnerability, using that as my number one connecting tool, but still having no excuses. So that's what I learned over the years was I was putting on a masquerade that everything was always perfect, and that made people feel, I guess, more vulnerable, and also as if there was like a superiority kind of shift, where now the first thing I do is lead with my vulnerabilities, is lead with my losses, is lead with what I've struggled with and how I struggled with it and what I learned from it. And you're struggling with it right now. So here's what I want to teach you to get through it.
I love that. And anyone listening that has gone through this or maybe be going through this sort of stuff, because I believe collectively we're going through some pretty tough times at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And knowing how to deal with that is so important. So knowing, dude, you experienced a lot of trauma during that time. How were you able to still show up in the world as Trent, to show up to football training, to show up as, because you're playing some high level football, right? Like you said, you sort of skipped over it, but you were a Cronulla Sharks player at one point in your life. How did you go about doing those things and showing up still, even though there was so much pain going on in your world?
Yeah, I think it was, I just knew I had no choice. There was no safety net below me. So it was two choices: either let this defeat me and then go down paths of alcohol, drug abuse, crime, etc., that you hear from these broken stories, or focus on my career and focus on, I guess, being an example for people who are struggling. And then as I built momentum there and realized it was possible, I became obsessed with personal development and thought to myself, okay, I got out of this pain. You hear this story Tony Robbins tells all the time about these two sons where the father was robbing banks and things like that, robbing liquor stores, gets put in jail. And then 10 years later, one son owns a business. He's got a happy family. He's super successful. The other one's in prison. And Tony asked these two sons, why do you think you are where you are in life? And their answer was, because of my father. So you literally have two pathways to choose from. And for me, it was like, well, it's a no-brainer. I want to live. I know I've got abilities. I know I can do something with them. So I did them for myself first. And then through personal development, I realized, hang on, I've got a pretty good knack of understanding psychology and how people work and how to rewire their brains, do the same thing I did. How many people can I take from pain and take them from hurt and take them to happy? And it's a pretty simple process, usually for most people. But like you said, it's hard to apply. We complicate most things through emotion, but cliches are cliches because they work. They've been cliches for years because people say them so often, they become annoying. I filmed a video on this the other day. It's like cliches are cliches because they work. It's like you just put them to practice, they do the job. You ignore them because they're too simplistic for you, because your emotions want to tell you that it's harder than that, and it's not.
Well, imagine, yeah, and that's spot on. It's like no one wants to believe the story that it is simple. because if that were true, their story wouldn't make any sense, that they can't do this because of this. I can't live my dream because I don't have the money. Go out and make the fucking money, you know? And it's I know, and it's so easy to say that, right? And I guess for us, and I'll talk for both of us here, is that we're two men that wanted something and we went after it. So it's like knowing that it is that simple, but my God, it is not easy. I can imagine some of the things you had to go through to get to where you are now. But
Mm.
even during that time, you know, us both being football players, what were some of the things you really struggled with? Do you feel like in culturally within football or rugby league specifically, even though we have good mates around us,
Mm.
do you find that like the quality of that culture is pretty average?
Yeah, when I was full time with the Sharks, it was back in 2010. So that's a long time ago, 2010, 2011. And the culture back then, I believe, was a lot worse than now.
Yeah.
My experience as a young guy coming through was it was very much a culture of not just taking the piss, but bullying to a degree and kind of pushing each other down, constant competition sideways with your teammates. And I found myself playing reserve grade, trying to push back into first grade and thinking, just from learning from the culture around me, I hope the other back rower doesn't play good today, so I look better. Rather than me thinking, how about I play better and do everything I possibly can to be the best I can, it was easier for me if he went worse and I could just rest on my laurels. Like, so much understanding now where I'm like, I could have only been a professional athlete, I believe, really well since I was about the maturity of I was 28. Age doesn't really matter, but the learnings I went through all that time, 28 years old, I finally understood what it actually took for success. And it takes putting blinders on and focusing only on what you're doing and what your results can be based off and what habits you need to put in place.
Oh, that's big. And it's knowing the people you would have been playing with at the time. Was Gal there obviously when you started playing?
Yeah, Gal was there. He was pretty good. Gal's all right. Yeah, he treated me
Yeah.
pretty good.
See, that's the thing. You know, there's this guy that gets perceived a certain way out in the public, but then they're the guys usually behind closed doors that are some of the kindest guys. Because from what I've seen, and especially what I talk about recently, is that some of the best men, the good men, are the ones that will tell you how it is. And
Yes.
I'm sure you probably feel the same way, where there's a bit of an epidemic going on with men, and we can sort
Mm.
of put this in the same way we were going through coming up in football, is that I know myself is that I was given everything from the age of 5 until 17
Mm.
because I was going to be a football superstar.
Mm.
So I got everything done for me. I got food made for me. I got given, you know, I didn't really have to do well at school because it was like, ah, you'll be fine. You're going to be a football player. It'll be fine. And then you get to the age where you're like, well, fuck, I need to do everything for myself now, but I don't know how to. I still feel like a little boy because I never really had to grow up because everyone did everything for me. Do
Mm.
you think that potentially some of the football players that come through the grades and everything, they finish footy, say, around about late 20s, early 30s, but they never had to get out of that system from the age of, say, 6 or 7 years old. So they never went through the actual rites of passage from little boy to man. And now what we're seeing is a lot of little boys in men's bodies, not only just in football, but in general public, that don't even know how to show up as men. Do you believe that's probably something we're dealing with at the moment?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Across all areas of communities and things like that, I think footy is a hyper focused example of that because, like you said, they're earning great money for playing a sport they love. They're put on a pedestal, everything's done for them. So I imagine footy players find it very difficult, but I think it's an epidemic across society is that young men aren't being taught how to be young men anymore. And the broken home rates gone through the roof where there is no strong male role model for a lot of these young men. So they grow up in a house where the mother's working full time, doing her absolute best to raise these kids, but men require men to become men. Like mums are the most incredible things that ever exist, and they bring you into the world and they keep you alive and they teach you how to be a good human. But then you hit a level where a man is required to teach you how to be a man. Women, unfortunately, can't, just like a man can't teach a woman how to be a woman. It comes down to those roles. And with the epidemic of broken homes growing through the roof, that's what you see much more related with crime and things like that. So, yeah, it's a problem across society, and men don't have a simple learning how to be a man. And I think tragedy and overcoming it is a great way to start. Unfortunately, we all go through it eventually. The bad days are coming. So pushing yourself into moments of adversity for me has always been a trick. The stronger I become as a man, the more hard things I do, and the easier things become easier, and the hard things become easier. So I keep on just finding ways to challenge myself. I'll take up jiu-jitsu, or I'll go to a comp, or I'll just cut body weight by 6 kilos, and I'll do ice baths and saunas and things constantly to try and push my container wider and open it up. So I know that when hard things come along, well, they're nothing compared to all the stuff I just did for the last 3 months.
Oh, even just that clip just there, for any of the men listening or the boys, that might be struggling with this stuff, because we don't say these things in the way of judgment, right? You know,
Sure.
it's a matter of, we want to help raise the brothers, the men, to become healthier, to be happier, because there is still way too much suicide happening within
Oh,
the men. Have you ever lost any mates through that way, bro? Or
no, thank God.
mm,
To this day, touch wood, I haven't lost any mates directly through suicide,
yeah,
but we work with a lot of individuals who have, for sure. Mindful Oz, a great organization in Victoria. I work hand in hand with them, and Troy, one of our head coaches here, he's an ambassador for them. And the founder of Mindful Oz, the reason why we raise money for them is he works on suicide prevention and awareness and things like that. He's lost 9 mates from the
oh,
same group,
the same friend group.
same friend group. That's how tragic this stuff can be, mate, and how it can spread, because it's almost like it becomes a valid option when you see someone else check out and take that route. Then other men go, okay, maybe this is the only option I have. And Troy, I did a podcast with the other day, actually. My head coach here, he's been through suicidal thoughts. As little as 12 months ago, he was on the edge of a cliff in Cronulla thinking about it. And he said the biggest learning he had is, beyond that, he didn't want to die. He didn't want to get out. He just wanted the pain to stop. And that's what most people are going through, is they're feeling so much pain. They don't know what the tools are to get them out of there. They get stuck in that moment, and they think, my only option is to get out of this pain is to die. They don't actually want to die. They just want the pain to stop.
Oh, yeah, that's hit the nail on the head. And I think this is probably a great topic to have a little bit of talk about back and forth, bro, because I know a lot of my listeners, they listen to me because they know what I've been through, and they know what some of my guests have been through, and then what we can help them through at the moment too. So what do you believe some of the most common issues are that lead men to that point? Knowing your mate and what he talked about, was there a specific thing that really got to him that made him get to that point? Like money or business and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think if I think generally, more generally, I would say that most of the time for men, it is not feeling like a man. So you're not looking after your physical vessel. You're not strong. You don't love the body you're in. They're huge factors to start with, because you feel less manly. Then you get less attention from girls, which makes you feel less manly again. You don't really build those social skills to interact with women, which is a huge metric on a man's, I guess, happiness, as like plain, and I guess a bit blatant it sounds, but it's the truth, is that a lot of a man's worth is derived from the way he feels in his physical body and the way the opposite sex interacts with him. So there's those factors. And then you've got, okay, am I progressing in life? Am I moving ahead in my career or my business or whatever it may be? If there's no progression there, going backwards again, you move into like addiction to porn and gaming. There's like a whole range of topics that lead to these things that, if you just unpack and do one thing different in each area, then you're going to slowly climb out of that hole, bit by bit, take one little short step at a time. They might look at my life and go, their life, and say, it's an absolute mess. Like, where do I start? Well, if you want to start somewhere, just start by getting up at the same time every day and going to bed at the same time every day. Let's just start there. Really simple one. And then once you've got that sorted, you've got nice sleeping patterns. You're no longer staying up till midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., watching porn or playing games or whatever it may be, and sleeping till midday. You've sorted out your sleeping patterns. You're going 10 till 6, healthy. Now you're up in the morning feeling good. You slept 8 hours. And you think, okay, what am I going to do today? I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to drink 3.5 liters of water. See how you feel there. Okay, it feels good. You know what? I might go for a run. I might even start with a walk, but let's just start with a 5K walk. I'm going to walk 5Ks by the ocean with no distractions and just hear what's coming in my head. Because something I've taught for a very long time is people distract themselves from their pain constantly with their phone, with conversation, with music, with whatever it may be. The problem is with that is the demons are coming for you, regardless, whether you like it or not. They're coming for you. And what you do is you distract yourself all day. You put your head down on the pillow, you close your eyes, and they attack you in your sleep. And people think, I can't sleep at night. I can't switch my brain off, all this shit. Well, what you haven't done, you haven't spent a moment, even half an hour in the daytime, processing those thoughts. And I always say to people, my analogy is, I'd rather go on a walk on the beach, which I've done many times in these first 3-6 months of my parenthood. I'd go for a run, or I'd go for a walk on the beach with no music, no nothing. And I'd say, all right, fuckers, come at me now. I'm like, come at me now while I'm ready for you. I'm
Fight them in the
standing, like,
daylight.
I've got my sword. It's daylight. I'm ready to go. I'll process you now. I don't want to lay in bed at night thinking about all the problems in my life. Deal with it for half an hour during the day. And I promise you, your life will feel so different.
Dude, that part there, let's just clip that, send it out. That is exact, and it is that simple. Again, we talk about the ability to do these things. They are controllable. They are free. Most of these things are free. I know a gym, what, $15 a week. It's these things that we can create. But again, a lot of men just don't know, and they just don't have that knowledge. And we might have this plethora of information, like, well, we know what to do when the demons come. We know what sword, what bit of armor to chuck on when that certain shadow comes up. And that's why we then have these really open conversations to bring that convo up and then share how to move through it, right?
Yeah, man.
Because
I think a lot of the problem is people don't know the first step to take. And it's like, we'll take a simple one. They think, all right, my goal is I want to feel amazing, be fit as hell, and make $1 million a year. No, that's a stupid goal. Start with your first step. I tell people, like I say, like, set your steps small. Like, make sure the next rung of the ladder is so, so close. Don't set lofty goals. Set ones that you think are so beneath you, but they're not. Like Jordan Peterson says, clean your room. Oh, no, that's not going to do much. I'm better than that. It's like, well, your room's a mess. Your life's a mess. Start with your room. Let's start with that. Do the first thing, which, like I said, the first step is get up at the same time, get up at the same time every day. Just do that one thing. It sounds beneath you. You don't think it's going to change anything, whatever, but you're not doing anything anyway. So you may as well do one thing that's going to improve it. Now, once you got that, go for the walk. Once you got that, drink more water. Once you got that, eat better. Once you got that, do some push-ups. Once you got that, go to the gym. But start with a simple one. Don't just think I have to get it all right at once. No, you don't. Well, you're doing nothing right at the moment. You may as well try one thing, get that right, and then build off that momentum. Don't set your goals so high. Set the bar low.
I love that. I think they're all beautiful things. And one thing that I'll never forget is when Kobe said, so many people are so busy looking at the top of the mountain rather than the first step. And it's beautiful to have the mountain built though as well. So
For sure.
purpose for men is so important. And I think a lot of men, though, like you said, they believe purpose is, to make $10 million. And your purpose could be to be the best dad ever and have an epic family and travel a couple of times a year and, live a beautiful life full of love and joy. That is a fucking beautiful purpose. It doesn't have to be to change the world. Like, I'm sitting here saying, I'm going to change the world. I want to leave impact. I want to help 2 billion people, whatever, right? Not every man and woman has to have those lofty goals. I
No,
feel I'm here for that purpose, and I'm sure you've got big goals as well.
for sure, brother. And the thing is, if you chase that purpose and you do it at a high level, money will come to you as a consequence of your positive actions. So you don't have to hyper focus on it. But like you said, if you build a lofty goal, you just reverse engineer from there. So even if we do here at Transform 40, so 40-day transformations, people are like, I want to lose 6 kilos. That's so doable. Okay, great. But let's set the goals up here. Dial right back to week one. What do you have to do in week one over 6 weeks? Okay, we've got to lose 1 kilo. We're going to lose 1 kilo. What do we do day one? Day one, we stick to our meal plan, the right amount of calories, done. Lift some weights that day, drink enough water, get enough sleep, don't drink alcohol. You do those 5 things today, and we'll be down hypothetically a couple 100 grams. Just keep on doing that same process on repeat. The problem is the 6 kilos can be scary, but the 100 grams or 200 grams today by following those 5 steps isn't that daunting. Okay, cool. Wake up Tuesday morning. What are we going to do? Same 5 again, same 5 again, same 5 again. Anyone in this world, obviously I'm in that physical transformation space in mind, is anyone in this world who wants to lose weight. If they stuck to the calorie deficit they were set in and they trained some weights and they drank enough water, didn't drink alcohol that day and slept at least 6 hours, anyone doing those 5 things will achieve a phenomenal transformation. Problem is, we're thinking too far ahead. I've got 30 kilos to lose. It's too hard. Start by losing 1 kilo in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I love that. Make it simple, make it easy. There's no need to make things tough for yourself. Life's already hard enough. And I like what you said there with it was around the goal factor. Now, one thing we like to break it down is the objective is the end thing, but then the tasks to get to that is what I'd like, exactly what you just said then. So anyone listening, basically what TJ is saying is that, cool, you've got your big goal, but what are the daily things you're going to do, the tasks that you can set that are way easier to do, and just focus on them daily. And then you'll get to that objective eventually. And a lot of people don't realize what we can get done in a short amount of time. So one of the coolest things I've recently learned, we've got this really high level coaching container with me, a few boys, and Ryan Moresby White, shout out to Rye. He goes, someone told him that if you break down your year into 12-week increments, you'll do what you set out to do in 12 months in 12 weeks. So say in 12 months, I wanted to get my podcast to number one in education in Australia. Well, why not try do that in 12 weeks?
Yep.
It's entirely possible. And then it's just those daily tasks to get to that. So making sure that, yes, you can have lofty goals, have the big objective, but let's not focus on that daily. Let's bring it down to the little tasks. So yeah, dude, epic information. Thank you. Also with your journey after football, dude, coming back to your storyline, where did it all change for you to go from, okay, I'm not a football player anymore. Did you struggle with that identity shift?
Yeah, big time. All I was known for was footy around the Shire and that kind of thing. And being a young man, once again, you attach a lot of your worth to that. So I was a first grade footy player, fringe first grader, that kind of thing. And then shifting from that, it was difficult. I kind of dove straight into, okay, I'm going to travel the world. So I had something positive to look forward to, and a massive Europe trip, that kind of thing. But then I came back and I went from professional athlete to getting on the train every morning in like high vis, dirty clothes, trackies and stuff, middle of winter, all the way to the city. I was working in a high rise building, putting up smoke flashings, like sicker and nailing them in. I was covered in Sikaflex every day, getting paid whatever an hour, not much. And yeah, it was a big, I guess, awakening. And I remember my now wife, I'm just like, what am I going to do with myself? Like I'm meant for so much more. And I always knew I had a business type of mind. I knew I could help people because I'd already been advising people and things before without even doing my certs yet, just helping them out with their bodies. And I had a good way of having people buy into the psychological side of things. And she's like, why don't you be a PT? Like you live and breathe training. You come home at 8 o'clock at night, you still go to the gym no matter what. She's like, you know so much about it, just going to that. I'm like, yeah, okay, there's something to that. And then from there, it just flowed. And I just became obsessed with the fitness space and how I could be the anti-fitness guy and the anti-gym guy in the way that everyone's welcome. It's not just about your physical look. There's so many more elements to it. And that's what Transform 40 has become. It's become this home of misfits, basically, where we bring in a bunch of people who don't feel welcome anywhere else, who are too nervous to go to gyms, who don't feel like they have enough fitness to even go to a gym yet, which is such a crazy thought, but I understand where it comes from. They're like, I'm not fit enough to go to the gym yet, so I'm just going to do this instead. It's like, we're never going to get there. You literally come to us. So we teach you how to walk. We teach you how to lunge. We teach you how to squat, everything from scratch. And that's what's been so great about the transition now is that I have zero regrets about quitting footy. I always had this thought, like, am I going to regret quitting it? Something I was great at young, and then there's a finite time you can do it. Well, now I'm at that finite time. I'm 34 years old. I'll be retiring regardless. Body probably busted up, might have concussion injuries by now. And I'm stoked in my life. So it took time to be sure about it. But yeah, it's turned out pretty well.
Wow, and what a journey. I think that's it's a very common journey, I believe, for a lot of ex-footy players or ex-athletes in general, because that identity crisis can hit hard. I know it did for me. It really fucked me up. It's kind of why, again, our why is built within our demon fighting phase, right? I believe there's so much power in the pain. And when you turn your passion into your why and your what hurt you is, I believe, the reason why so many amazing people are showing up, because they're turning their pain into that power to why they show up, to why they do the things. And it's why I do this podcast. It's why I meet people like yourself. And it's almost like those things fall into place. When you make the decision, this is what I want to do, you say it out loud, you write it on a book, whatever it is, it's almost like the universe goes, all right, motherfucker, here's all the things you need to do this, which is my next question is, how the hell did you build a gym, bro? Going from, going into laboring and all that sort of thing. What sort of journey was it to start your own business? Because this is where we can give a lot of value to anyone that might have thought about becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a business owner, especially in the space of helping people.
Yeah, I love it. Great question. So it's a long journey, plenty of ups and downs, and it's not all perfect now. You know what I mean? Like there's still so many learnings. But I started out, I was doing the smoke flashings, I was doing the laboring work, that kind of thing. Did my certs within like 3 or 4 months. I smashed them out. At the same exact time, I found Tony Robbins' book, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Started reading this. I'm like, this is all the stuff that I always had this inherent, I guess, blessing that things would come into my mind that I'd work out how to get through my pain, like problem solving, solutions. And then Tony put it in such a succinct way. I'm like, oh, okay, I've done that one already. I didn't really know that's what I was doing. Cool. I was learning from all these lessons. And so I've done my certs. I go into PT. Within a matter of weeks, I was full. And that was because I understood the psychology of how to shift people. And I looked the part because I looked after myself. So I was living it authentically. It was my purpose, it was my passion. I love talking about it. And people can feel that. If I was trying to sell used cars, I'd be broke. You know what I mean? Because it's just not what I'm passionate about. But I try and sell this stuff and have these kind of passionate conversations in a goal session to a 20-year-old girl who's miserable and she feels like she's overweight and she doesn't like her job and she's got no love in her life and that type of thing. I'm berating her like this in the most positive sense because I'm like, we can snap you out of that pain. All you have to do is shift in these areas, and here's a solution for it. So pretty quickly, I was full. Pretty quickly, I was getting phenomenal transformations doing the 40-day challenges and getting great results. Other people were running those challenges, not getting the same great results because I'm missing the mindset side of things. They're missing the passion. They were just thinking, stick to your meal plan and do your training. Well, everyone knows that's what you got to do, but no one does it. Why is that? Because you haven't shifted their mind yet. So I did that for about 5 years. I was just really loving working as a PT in a gym, is paying rent. I'd travel 10 weeks of the year. So like little Bali trips here and there, America and things like that, just breaking them up throughout the year. And then I hit about 26, 27. I was like, no, 27, 28. I said to myself, what are you going to do for the next 10 years, next 15 years? Like, this is great. You're on decent money and you're helping some people and you're traveling, but you need to create a legacy. Like, you need to have a lasting legacy and something that you can build, that you can be proud of. So that's when I went into the guy who was working for me at the time. He's like a subcontractor. Just opened the office door. I was on the floor training someone, just finished the session. I went in, I was just thinking about formulating. Mate, we're starting a gym. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to you later. Shut the door. And came back to him later. I'm like, we need to build a business plan. And I had no idea where to start. Like, anyone who looks at our stuff now, it all looks pretty polished and professional. I literally downloaded off the government website a business plan template and just started using a pen, just filling out boxes.
I
I had
did the
no clue what I
same.
was doing. I'm like, how do I start? I'm like, all right, start there. So I start filling out boxes. I look at our competitors and I'm thinking, what's missing from the industry? I looked at a few of the big gyms that everyone would know the names of. And I'm like, okay, they're doing group classes, but they don't look after anyone in any other way. And these guys are doing PT and group, and they look after pretty intensely after people, mostly an older demographic, and they charge a lot. Okay, let's kind of amalgamate all of this. Let's do PT plus classes. You've got the class option, but let's leverage what I already know, which is mindset coaching, nutrition, build all that in so you get personal training results in a group training environment, and focus on the young people, because all the lessons I've learned pertain to them. They're the ones who need them. So I'm like, okay, all the stuff I've learned over the years from Tony Robbins, I've done like 10 years, 10,000 hours, tens of thousands of dollars spent on seminars and workshops and stuff. I'm like, I'm going to build video series, as you've probably seen some of them, where there's like drip fed content for each member. So when you sign up with us, you get 8 to 10 weeks of just mindset hacks constantly just coming into your feeds. These kind of conversations through email, a couple a day, help them understand visualization, teach them breath work, teach them goal setting, teach them the whole shebang. So yeah, it all kicked off there in Tarrant Point. I opened up this tiny little office space. We just gutted the whole thing, put a gym in it. It was tiny. It was such a crappy little facility. It was so much fun. Got it to like 140, 150 members. We're overflowing downstairs. We had about 15 square meters. We're fitting like 30 people in it. It was just a mess. So we're like, all right, we've got to upgrade. Moved into a massive facility in Caringbah, which we're in still at this to this day. And then from there, once again, ups and downs constantly. Like, I'm still learning how to be a good business owner, a good business person, but still have the heart and still have the empathy for the team and still manage well, but understand that a lot of people, I guess that's a shift I've struggled with. A lot of people are relying on me now, my own family, my team of 12, that if you always only come from the heart and be empathetic and understand as a business owner, you're going to hurt everybody. It's kind of like communism. You know what I mean? It's a great idea. It sounds nice, but it doesn't work in theory. So in practice. So then, yeah, I had to learn, be more of a business person, understand finances and bottom lines. I'm never worried about money. My whole life, I've always believed in the universe. It'll just come. So now my business partner, he looks after all that side of things. I can focus more on the heart, but I've had constant ups and downs, mate. I opened a second gym. It's doing great. That's what I'm sitting in right now. Here's my little studio inside that
Oh,
gym. And now
nice.
we have
That's
our
cool.
first, yeah, thanks, brother. And we have our first licensed facility. My best mate, Dave, and Joshy boy, who worked for me for a long time at Caringbah, they opened that up and it turns 1 this Saturday.
Dude, congratulations. That journey just there. It goes to show I've just now realized the key factor for the ones who are doing the things, they fucking do the things. You just said, I'm going to start a gym and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
There's no real great, secret about how do I do this? How do I do that?
It's not, mate.
And it's something that I was going to bring up at my keynote this weekend at the speaking event. And one thing I've always been is the guy that says he's going to do what he says he's going to do.
Mm.
It might not be instant with some things, but when I said I was going to be a podcaster, I'm still here 2.5 years later.
Mm.
When anyone else that started around that time, they're pretty much all gone. And it just goes to show that consistency, the showing up, the just doing the things, that's all that's really involved for greatness.
I love that, bro. Like I heard a stat the other day, Chris Williams talking about. I believe he said 90% of podcasters never make it past 6 months.
Yep.
And 100th episode is like a tiny percentile. So like you're right up in that
0.01%.
top percentile already after 2.5 years. And it sounds like you're just getting started.
I'm literally getting started, bro. That's the thing. I'm still getting better as a host. Still learning how to bring in the right guests and that sort of thing that I can flow with and give the right sort of value, because it is all for the listener, right?
Mhm.
And it's knowing that my purpose and my why has shifted again, which I know now is going to project through the episodes, because my passion is in the back of my head, or sorry, in my heart, is knowing that how can I not only give TJ an epic experience, but how can I also extract all the most epic value from him to give to the listener? Because I know you care about that. That's the coolest thing. So I want to show and find people like you that actually give a fuck about helping people, not just showing up on a podcast to get your name out there, but that's also what I want to do for the guests, because people like you deserve to be heard. That's the other thing, right? So to break down your little journey just then to, again, as we just spoke about, give value. I know there are a fair few coaches, business owners, PTs and stuff listening to my podcast. What's one thing that helped you get consistent clients? Was it showing up on socials? Was it cold emails, cold calls, that sort of stuff, word of mouth? What is it that worked for you the best?
Great question. I think it touched on what you were just talking about there. So people are creating a shift in their life and what's required. And you talked about like us, it seems selflessly. And a good thing I want to get across to listeners here is when we talk about helping people, it can sound inauthentic and people might think, oh yeah, sure. Like you guys probably make good money doing what you're doing. You charge for your service and this and that. And of course, but helping people from the bottom of your heart and just openly, like truly trying to get a shift for them and help them move, it's a selfish act. This is what people are missing. People who are selfish all the time and don't try and help others, they're missing the juice. For me, the juice is incredible. Yes, I help people and I get paid for it. Fair enough. That's part of it. But helping people selflessly when you don't get paid for it, which I do all the time in my life, that's a selfish act. I love the gift of giving because it feels so good. The fulfillment's incredible.
The
So I suppose,
oxytocin's unreal.
yeah. So how I'd answer your question would be, when you're first starting out, let's say PT, for example, how successful? Well, number one, living and breathing it. So I looked the part, definitely helped. Understanding how to talk to people. So being a social person, if you don't like sales, then you're missing out on a lot of life. It's not about selling, it's about connecting. All sales is creating empathy, understanding, actively listening, looking for the truth behind the truth, because most people's words aren't really matching up with their body language and what they're truly trying to say or what's truly their pain. So looking the part, actively listening, building that empathy, hearing their problem, getting as many problems from them as possible, dig deeper. If you are a PT out there or a gym owner and anyone comes to you and says, I just want to get more toned, good luck selling them anything, because that's not a very strong goal. There's something behind it. There's usually more pain. There's just something going through that you can add a solution to. So find their true pain, show them the solution to their problem. Don't try and sell them. Just literally say, would you like this solution? It's X amount. You know what I mean? It's not about trying to sell things and force things. We don't sell things here. People come here with problems. We have a solution for it and they trade energy for that solution. Energy for them is money. Energy for us is time and resources.
That was perfectly answered, bro. Thank you. And that right there is exactly why we do what we do, right? And as you said, yeah, exactly. We love helping people, and yes, we get paid for it. And I know myself, I charge based on the problems I solve.
Yeah.
I hear this
The
thing
amount of
of,
the amount of solutions you have for the problem, it's worth its time.
yeah, and you hear this whole like charge what you're worth. I don't think that's the case. It's charge for what the value you provide in the world. And
Yeah, that's a really good point.
if I'm able to help someone not kill themselves, I feel like that's a pretty fucking good bit of value I'm providing in the world. So what I charge for that, I believe is 100% acceptable. And I stand behind that when someone asks on a call, which, you hear the numbers of like, oh, not every coach can sell, 8 out of 10 calls. It's like, oh man, I pretty much do, because I'm literally coming from this thing in
Mhm.
my chest. It's all heart. It's all heart. And I know I can help people. And if that client doesn't show up for themselves, then that's the only time that I'm not going to be able to help them. If you can't help yourself, no one else will be able to help you, right?
Exactly right.
Like, how often do you get clients that come into the gym that you want so badly for them to change and feel that goodness of like losing the weight, feeling better mindset wise, showing up, but they just don't want to do the things. And
Mhm.
do you ever feel a bit of guilt there, or are you at that point where you can accept the fact that you've done everything you can, but it's on them at some point?
Yeah, it's definitely some degree on them. I guess the only level of, I wouldn't say guilt. I don't really feel guilt, but the learning I've had over time is me upskilling my team better. So I don't work too much one-to-one in the gym anymore with the clients, but I always had a pretty good knack of getting like 9 out of 10 results. And the one result I couldn't get in my early days may have been me not really understanding what they actually truly needed. But these days is just usually they just don't want it. They say they want it, but they don't want it. But with my team, it's like, okay, well, I haven't upskilled that person to get the results sometimes. So as a learning curve, I go back and I'm like, okay, let's retrain you. Like, here's where you're missing. You're not emphasizing the importance enough of these things. Most coaches, where they fail, any coach listening to this, is you're trying to be their friend first rather than be respected first. Is stop trying to be liked by every single one of your clients and people you interact with. Seek to be respected. Give them the things they need to get a result. At the end of the day, they'll respect you and like you a hell of a lot more.
Hallelujah. So can we actually touch on that real quick? Because again, we're bringing it back to men. So showing up in the healthy masculine.
Oh yeah.
Now, by being honest and upfront in the beginning, you're showing your true self. There's no masks on there. Now, I want every fucking man listening to this to hear these words that both of us were about to speak right now. Because TJ, I'm sure you can accept this as well and acknowledge this, is that the way we show up in the world for ourselves with anyone will dictate exactly how we show up in relationships, career, whatever it might be. So, what are some things for you, the way you show up in the world as a healthy masculine man, that could help other men listening?
Yeah, number one is have values. Understand who you are. I filmed a video on this yesterday. And I
Oh,
talked
epic.
about if you have values and live by a code, people will respect you and they won't help but be able to like you. So a great example I use is Tommy Shelby, Peaky Blinders. Seen that?
Yeah.
He's a womanizing criminal who murders people and ruins families, but you can't help but love the bloke because he has his
Respect.
value structure and he lives by his values. So you know he lives by a code and you get what you get. That's what you need to be as a man. Not necessarily all the bad stuff, but understand who you are. Say no to everything that doesn't match you beyond helping loving family and friends that you need to be there for them, which is part of that anyway. It's part of the code. Figure out who you are, figure out what's important to you, say no to everything that doesn't match that, say yes to less things. That way you never let anyone down. You're always filling your own cup up selfishly so that you can then give to others with your overflow.
I love that. And it's that not becoming a people pleaser, right?
Yeah.
Was there any phase in your life where you were a people pleaser?
Not once. Nah.
I love
Never was. I
that.
understood from a young age that I had to be selfish in my pursuit of my career and my health and my learning so I could give to other people. So people ask things of me all the time, and my answer will always be, let me check my schedule. Let me see what I've got. I'd love to do that. Like say, like it's a lunch or a dinner or whatever it may be, catching up with people. I'd love to, but I can't at the sacrifice of doing the things I've already planned. Because then at the end of the day, I'm either going to let you down and not be able to make it, which I never do in my life. I keep my word about everything I'm going to do. So I buy myself time, work out if I can or can't do it, and say yes or no. I've even not gone to my own birthday dinner once because it didn't suit.
Oh, integrity. Damn.
I
Uh,
canceled it early. I was like, they tossed it up. The girls were organizing it for me. And I went about 4 days early. I hadn't said yes yet. And I went, you know what? I can't. I need to focus on these things. And it was at a time in my life where I knew I didn't want to go out and have drinks and then slip into 10 beers and then feel crap Sunday and then crap Monday. I knew, okay, if you don't want to slip, don't go red slippery. You want to focus, don't go do that. Stay at home with the missus and just have dinner, chill out, go to bed. And you'll never regret those decisions, but you regret when you say yes to things and you either do them because you don't want to do them, or even worse, a lot of blokes out there will say yes to everything and not show up, or just cancel last minute or show up late. For masculine traits, to make that all very succinct, is figure out who you are, keep your word. Anything you say, you do. You follow through on promises. That's another example of that. You make sure that you are truthful in every moment. If you can't tell the truth, at least don't lie. At least if you're going to protect people's feelings, don't lie to them. Just find a way to answer the question differently and to build yourself up physically. It sounds too simple, and it's kind of counterculture these days with being very feminine as a man. But if you want to be a true masculine man, build yourself up physically, have the strength to defend the ones you love if there's ever a need to. I think they're really good traits where you can feel like a man and you can carry yourself in a certain way and people gravitate towards that.
I agree. And, and I myself, I train purely for that fact. It's not to be shredded or anything. Like, I'm a very powerful, strong man that
You look a big,
could.
powerful man, mate.
I'm 145 kilos at the moment,
Higher.
bro. So it's a
You
big
move
boy.
some weight.
I do, yeah. Weight moves weight, and but again, I do it because I enjoy it too. Because it's like I
Yeah.
get in there, and it's an integral part of my life. Ever since you'd know it as well, playing footy. I only have to go three, 4 times a week, and I'm happy with that. I
Yeah.
show up as long as I'm moving my body a bit. I play basketball, or I used to quite a bit before my knee, and I miss that. But again, I go play that because I love it. So
Mhm.
it's incorporating these things that are not only good for me, but they're integral for, as you said, to show up in that healthy masculine. And one thing I'd love to add to all what you said, which was so beautiful, why should men do this? Okay, so because you will have any woman you want in the world. If there's so many single men out there struggling with the dating scene right now, if you show up as a fucking integral man in a healthy masculine way, that woman will just literally mysteriously pop out of nowhere because you are becoming what you want to see in the world. So think about the way that myself and TJ have shown up. And like, you've got a beautiful, are you married now recently?
I am, yes,
Right.
married.
So yeah. So, and how long you guys been together for?
We met about 11 years ago. We had a little gap in the middle when I was finding myself as a man and working out relationships and love, and I was still pushing it all the way.
Yep.
So we got back together, and it's been incredible ever since. We've got 2 puppies, my baby Wild, and yeah, got married 3 weeks ago in Bali.
How's that, dude? You've got this beautiful family, the epic business. You're obviously a very happy, healthy man. And it's by having those values, as you stated, showing up like that can create this world. And again, guys, not everyone needs to be like a multimillionaire, or doing these big things or owning a business. You can be a bloke that's working. Take me, for example, when I used to hate myself, I was working at Rebel Sport for 6 years. I loved it. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had. I got to meet people. I got to help people. I was one of the best customer service agents in Australia at one point because all I did was cared about people.
Mm,
So when they trusted me because I actually gave a shit, I could sell them anything in the store.
yeah.
So think about, by you showing up authentically in anywhere in life, what you will get in return. There's a karmic reality, there's a universal law that by you showing up in this world as the energetic being that you want to be attracting at a certain frequency, again, I'm probably using words that some people might not understand, but it's basically like, if you've got low frequencies, what do you call in at that low frequency? If
Mm.
you're a high frequency, if you're in happiness, love, joy, enjoying your day, waking up happy, that's all you will see in your world. That's all I see when I'm in that frequency. And I'm sure you can attest to that as well, TJ.
Yeah, man, I love it. I think you touched on something there that reminded me of another very important part of masculinity is having use. If you have use for the world, if you feel useful, it's incredible how that can help with your depressive thoughts and all those types of tendencies. And I'll really quickly tell a story of back in the day in the war,
Mm,
the Germans were about to invade. So the Blitz was beginning. And there's a lot of men who were comatose and in hospital on drugs and things like that for depression. They couldn't get out of bed. As soon as that Blitz started and they were needed to pick up a gun and to go and defend their country, all of a sudden they're popping out of nowhere. They're all better. They're all getting out of bed. They no longer need the medication. They went to war because they had a purpose. They had a use. If you don't have use and purpose as a man, you will feel less of a man. It will drag down your mental health over time. Find what you can be useful to the world for, what you can do where you have use, apply that to people. And trust me, you'll feel incredible for it. And you'll see, like you said, women and men both gravitate towards you because you have use for the universe.
oh, that I just, if you saw me looking left and right, I was just typing that in the computer because I'm hitting these really beautiful spots that you're giving value so we can clip them. So
Oh, gotcha.
it's such a cool conversation around this stuff. And I so badly wish that more men would talk in this way.
Mm,
Talk about ancient knowledge as well, or history.
yeah.
Thinking about that story just then gave me goosebumps because I thought about, even though they probably knew they were going to their death, they still had so much belief in themselves because they had that use, that purpose, that like they're doing this for the greater good. So they
Mm.
showed up, they got out of bed, they got through that darkness that was holding them down because they're like, I mean something.
100%. You hear about it a lot when like men find out they're having a child and all of a sudden they start cleaning up their act in all areas of life and everything starts improving because they have a greater purpose. Where before it was just for them, we're happy to let ourselves down. But when it comes to defending your country and you've got all your family that you love, then you're like, oh, I was happy to die. I was depressed. I was suicidal, but I don't want them to die. All of a sudden, you're better again and you're happy and you're going to war to defend those people you love. It's find your purpose, find a reason why, make it bigger than yourself. If you're only driving life as a man is, I want to make as much money as possible so I can live the best life possible, I promise you run out of rope. You won't have the steam to keep going. But if you make it about the community around you, you build a team that you love, you've got members that you love, you've got family that you love, all of a sudden you're responsible to all these people, you'll never run out of motivation. You'll never run out of discipline or energy because you can't. I've made failure for myself an absolute no option. I have from day dot, and I just kept on stacking responsibility and people I love around me to the point now where I'm like, if I fail, I let all those people down. I just can't. I've got to find a way to get through this.
Responsibility stacking. I like that. I've
Mm.
just clipped that as well. Um, because it's so true. And I'll talk on this where some men, I'll speak about my own experience, is one of the biggest shames I've had in my life, which I shared at an event that me and my mates created a couple of years back, the ripple effect. The point that I had to get into the event because a couple of men didn't show up, and we just did the rage release. So we'd face off against another man, that healthy masculinity and integration
Mm.
to control that. So it's like the rage is like the protected guardian, and then you need to control that and then go sit down calmly and speak with another woman in front of
All right.
you. Yeah, so it was like 50 men, 50 women. So it was that polarity, the male, female, masculine, feminine. And what we had to get the men to do, and I had to sit in on this, was share your biggest shame to the woman in front of you. So you can
Mm.
imagine how tough that would have been for some men. Obviously, for me, I was super open. I was like, yeah, I'll talk it.
Mm.
The one shame that really came up was that my whole life, bro, was that I had this story that my money story was horrible, only until like recently. It's something that in the unconscious, it had grip on me that I I'm not meant to have money and I don't make money. And the thing that had come up in the past is I felt so bad about myself that I couldn't provide for my partner,
Mm.
and then that recently hit me again with some stuff that went on where I was like, man, I went through 4 months of demon fighting again at the start of this year, again, just to level up. Like we all go through it. And during that time, my partner was going through stuff too. And I just had this sinking feeling like, oh, it's happening again. Why is this fucking happening again? Clearly, I hadn't dealt with it. So, like you said, I sat in it, bro. I sat in it and I thought, why does this keep happening? Why does this keep showing up? What is it I need to face, to clear? What's this demon I need to cut its head off on? And wasn't necessarily about fighting this demon and killing it. It was actually me opening the door to him because he kept banging on the door. I looked outside the room and I thought, all right, dude, come in. You're welcome. Brought him into the party with all the other traits of myself that I've integrated and I love. And I said, look, I see you. I know you're part of me, but I've had enough. And we had that conversation, right? So it might sound weird to some people listening, but it's almost like I invited my demon into my own party because I knew that if I just accepted that that's part of me rather than leaving him outside, I could actually control him or get
Mm.
along with him because he's now my mate. He's not an enemy that's outside the walls. So by integrating him and saying, okay, this has been a part of me and probably still will be, how can we work together? And through that, by doing that, I started to learn some information about why I do the things I do. And what it came through to me was that I was getting into survival state because it was my comfort zone. My entire life, I was used to just surviving, getting by week. So I'd built this unconscious belief that it was easier in survival mode rather than going to that next level and making lots of money and having lots of money. I've made shitloads of money, but I've also spent a lot of
Mm.
money because my unconscious believed that if I see digits in that bank account, that wasn't my story. That's not what it's supposed to be about. So by just integrating that and saying, okay, I see you, I get you, let's get rid of this, let's move to the next level. Dude, as soon as I did that, abundance galore,
Right.
clients, money, opportunities. It was almost like, okay, you finally accepted that you get to go to the next level now. So, have you ever had that sort of moment where there was a demon or shadow that was showing up and you were able to integrate it and move through it?
Oh yeah, a very similar one. So for me, like same again, all through my 20s, made a bunch of money, but spent every cent of it. And I think I relate it to a story I tell all the time to my members and team. I'm trying to teach them this kind of thing when it comes to weight loss or strength gain or improving your health or finances is if you've always been at the ground level and you get to the first floor, it's much safer to fall from the first floor to the ground level. You're going to survive. If you get to the penthouse of your health, of your finances, of your relationships, your marriage, you're having a child, scary as hell, that's penthouse. If you fall from there, you're going to die. So what we do unconsciously is we continually sabotage ourselves, whether it be financially or through health. I've done this myself, financially and through health and business for sure in the past, 100%. Is it's safer to live in survival mode because you're closer to the ground, you can't get hurt. But if you did be financially free and have a loving relationship and have a child, and you lost all of that, it's scary as hell. And I've lived and breathed it. I'm going through it right now. The idea of losing my son, I couldn't breathe a day on this earth without him breathing. So that's such a scary thing for me to think about now. And I'm at that penthouse with him and I'm like, holy shit, like it's a long way down. But it's so much more beautiful in the penthouse. If you have that financial abundance, if you have that love in your life, if you have that health and live in that penthouse, it's worth it. Whether you fall or not, we're all going to fall eventually. We're all going to have those losses. So for me, it's been that really big integration of learning how to be comfortable in the penthouse and enjoy the view while you've got it.
Oh, and don't be afraid of the fall.
Yeah, because you're going to fall no matter what, of course, eventually. But do you want to live your whole life on the first floor, just continually falling back to ground, or spend your whole life in the penthouse and at the end of your beautiful life, then you fall?
I love that. And that, thank you for sharing that. I think something I can relate it to, something I heard. I think I read it in a book. And you would relate to this because you're obviously at this point at some point where you blocked everything off and you're like, what's the point
Oh,
of
yeah.
love? You're
Yeah.
gonna just gonna lose everyone. But it's like they say, I can't remember who said it. It was really beautiful. They go, they understand that it's easier to not deal with love and heartbreak and those sort of things. But what life would be lived if you never experienced true deep love? You know, the experience of deep love is worth the heartbreak that comes afterwards because you can always get back to that. You
Mhm.
can always experience love. It's there. It's everywhere. You know, I've had partners where been together for 10 months, 6 years, 4 years, and something Jay Shetty said that I've always attached myself to was he doesn't believe there's a soulmate. There's a heap of mates that help you find your soul.
Yeah, man.
You know, so like it's you might meet someone that you're together with for 10 years and then you separate.
Mm.
That's okay. It's not the end of your world. It just means that maybe it's time for you for a little bit and then you meet your next one or you don't meet the next one. It's time for you to do your thing. There's so much beauty in self, but there is so much more beauty in allowing that love to come back into your life again by first building it within yourself. So I mean, a great question for you, bro, which it seems to be you've got a lot for it. How do you cultivate self-love on a daily basis?
Yeah, just touching on what you said just then, that was beautiful, was that I went through that same exact experience. I didn't think I was capable of love, and I thought I had a finite amount of love. So I lost my mother. It took me a long time to actually truly love my partner, Tiffany. Then I'm like, okay, I'm full of love. She's like, when do you get a puppy? I'm like, I don't have enough love for a puppy. Like, I love you. That's it. That's all I got. Get this puppy. He changed my world. Squish. He was the key shift for me on the back of Tiff that, okay, you may have more love than you think. Let's get another one. Oh, I've already got one puppy. Like, I'm not going to like him. I've got one. Like, he's my boy. I'm not going to love a second dog. And he comes along. I'm in love with him. And then I'm like, okay, it finally clicked. I have an abundance of love. It's not finite. It's an infinite amount. And then Wild came to my world and it's more love than I've ever experienced. I'm like, okay, it's abundant. You can just keep finding more space in your heart. So sorry, I'll answer your question now. I want to
No,
get
that
that
was cool.
yeah, man, it's what I struggled with for a long time. It brought me so much pain that I didn't realize it was pain. And I was just going from girl to girl, just trying to just plaster over the pain and imagine like I wasn't in it. And all I was really doing was just trying to protect myself by hurting myself. It was quite ludicrous.
Well, let's stay on that for a moment because this is a really important topic, and I know there's a lot of people going through this at the moment, or may have struggled with it in the past, and it may come up in the future. How would you say that say you experience deep love, and then obviously you've lost people that you love? how did you deal with that heartbreak as it initially happened, and how did you move through it?
Yeah, so mine wasn't breakups. It was loss of loved ones.
Yeah.
So it might be slightly different for different people. But for me, it was extremely difficult because I was young and it had a lot of trauma to come with it. But I eventually, the way I dealt with it was years later. Sadly, it took me a long time because I didn't have people like yourself and Tony Robbins and stuff like that integrated in my life at the time. I was just winging it. And then I was actually at a Tony Robbins experience and I was doing a mindful breath work kind of spiritual experience, which is this is the best way to get in touch with your soul. And I literally saw my mother and I blame myself for not saving her because I'm a savior. Like I love saving people. It's what I love doing. Blame myself because I had the tools then to save her, but at 17, I didn't. I was probably 24 at this point. I was with my partner there and I connected with my mother. I literally saw her. She was hovering above me. I was in a chair. I was kind of like just floating in the chair. And she said, forgive yourself. It wasn't your fault. And I held a lot of resentment for her as well for leaving. And I said, I forgive you. It wasn't your fault. I know you're in pain and the pain's over now. And tears streamed down my face. There was like 5,000 people in the auditorium and 5 facilitators. And this facilitator came out of nowhere. I was one of 5,000. He started rubbing my temples while I'm bawling my eyes out and having this integrated moment. And yeah, so that was my experience. And on the back of that, I was finally open with my partner and how I lost my mother. And from that day forward, my darkness became other people's light. On the back of that, I started to tell people, here's what happened to my mother. Here's what I went through. Here's how she struggled. Here's how she passed away. And now I am here because I did these things. Let me help you on that journey too, where I used to just keep it all a secret and lock it all up. So I think to help people get through that type of loss would be just be honest and ruthless with people. Like tell them the ruthless truth story, no matter how sad it is, no matter how depressing it is. Be open with people who can help. Share that and spend time processing it. Tell people the learnings you got from the processing time. Don't do it all on your own. Don't just hide away because sometimes, yes, alone time's good. I seek solitude to find answers. But if you're going around in circles, you got to take the things you think you learned, tell them to someone who can help, who does know more about this stuff, and go back and forth, but don't just do it all on yourself.
I love that, and so beautifully answered. Thank you. So it's, and again, it's steps we can take to move through this stuff. There's always a way. There is always a way. I want anyone listening to know that whatever pain you are going through, what you have gone through, there's always a way. And as Trent just mentioned, his one was breath. I
Mm.
was the same. I went to a Call to Be Conscious experience in 2021 and I experienced my first holotropic breath. It was like 30, 35 minutes. And all the rage, the anger I was very unaware of subconsciously that was sitting down in my lower gut to the right, which, when we talk about emotions causing pain in our body or dis-ease,
Mm.
anger was causing a lot of dis-ease in my body. So as soon as I released that, I was like a fucking bear that day, bro. I was off the ground, like, and it's pretty full on. It is full on.
Oh yeah.
At the time, I was very new to it, so I was like, "What the fuck's going on? What is this?" But I embraced it because I was feeling good. I was like, I'm letting this all out, even though there was 100 people in the room. I thought, nah, this is my chance. Just let everything out. And from that day, dude, all the craziest synchronicities, universal things started happening. I started seeing snakes everywhere. You probably think, dude, you live in Queensland, you're going to see snakes. But when I was seeing these snakes, they were at very important times, and it was all about rebirth. Sure
Mm.
enough, my journey from that day was just nuts because it was almost like, the best way I can explain it is the situation I had yesterday with a friend. I took her through one of her first holotropic breaths on a one-on-one session, and she'd put armor, as the same thing that you went through, bro, on top of her heart because she experienced so much pain and loss and hurt from friends that did her wrong and all these things. So it was like, all right, here's another piece on here, blah, blah, blah. During this breath, bro, I've literally watched her just open her heart space. She went to put her hands over it to protect it again. I brought them up over her head. It's just to open the channel a bit. Boos, and just this energy shot out the top, down the bottom. It actually cut out the speaker in the room that I was using for the music. It was
Holy
so weird. I don't know if you can call it coincidence, but it was
wow.
as soon as that happened and I felt it, that speaker just cut out. So it was almost like, oh, it's okay, her heart's opened. It's the
Mm.
energetics, and us being energetic humans, it was like it was coursing through her hands. And she said 2 hours later, she's like, Trav, I cannot explain how light I feel. I've not felt this good in years. And to
People who
think,
don't do breath work wouldn't understand that light feeling. Hey.
yeah, and it's so hard, right? Because well, it's not hard. It's funny because I'm seeing recently, and I take the piss out of myself being a coach and stuff too. It's like, yeah, let's do the breath, do the, wake up. And it's funny to take the piss, but it's also, I think that's a cop out for people because there's all these jokes, there's a guy that's done a parody of like what coaches do in the morning and morning routines and oh, you must journal for 7 hours before you get up and this sort of stuff. But the people that take the piss don't realize how much this stuff genuinely helps, right? That maybe they don't want to believe it's that easy. Again, when I talk
Exactly,
about
spot
that,
on. Mhm,
oh, what you can just change your life and release trauma from an hour breath. Fuck off.
mhm.
Well, yeah,
It's not the
actually,
solution, it's one of the steps.
it's the beginning.
Yeah.
I would actually, yeah, literally that the breath is the loosening of the grip.
It allows you to understand that you can expand your container and you can fit more, and that actually the world has got way more in the universe, far more than you ever thought. And what you don't know is what will save you. So open up your mind a bit, stop being so, I guess, egotistical and biased with your cognitive beliefs. Open it up a bit. You're not as smart as you think. I learned this every 6 months, how stupid it was 6 months ago. Is that how about you just try it? How about you expand your mind? I don't believe anything unless I do it myself. And I go, okay, did it work for me or not? And just do that process of elimination. See what you like and don't like. Do it with diets, breath works, strategies to feel better, whatever it may be in life, making money. Just try it. Stop thinking that what you've always done is what you'll always do. There's so much more to life than what you know.
Mm, that's really well said. And one thing I relate it to is like when you're at school and it wasn't cool to try.
Yeah.
None of the boys in the football team would go into athletics and because we could have all carved up, shot put, high jump, sprints, whatever. None of us tried because it wasn't cool. It
Mm.
wasn't cool to be the one that was actually trying. And I guarantee you that has followed through into community and culture now that it's not cool to be healthy, happy, successful, trying things and changing. It's actually cool to be struggling to pay rent, doing this and wow, fucking why do they make their bed and think they're the best? It's because it's and I've had that from people before. It's like, oh, what do
Yeah.
you make your bed and you feel you starts the day right? And it's like, yeah, it actually does.
And the fucking answer is yes, man. Like I do cold showers in the morning because it makes me feel good. And I know that's one step to the many, many things on the spectrum to feeling good. But I still see it day to day here, man. Like I see it with members when they first come here and they don't want to look like they're putting the effort in. They don't want to try very hard. They want to make sure they don't stand out because this tall poppy syndrome in Australia is anyone who does anything different, like you, I'm sure you've experienced a lot, is people attack you.
Yeah.
And then you realize, hang on, who gives a shit? They're not actually thinking maybe that much. They took their time right now to send me a nasty DM and they're unhappy in their life. But why would I let that stop me from doing what I can do? And Hormozy, have you heard Alex Hormozy? I'm sure he's all over the internet.
Oh, dude,
He
he's
had this
epic.
really good tweet the other day, man. He's like, all right, he goes, the Queen amassed more wealth than 99.99% of people have ever lived. She was also a female monarch all through the 1900s, which is unheard of. She achieved all these things. She was famous across the world, and she died 6 months ago. And you haven't thought about her since that day until now. So if you think people are going to think about you after you die, you're kidding yourself. Do what you want to do.
Wow. Yeah, that really puts into perspective, isn't it?
Doesn't it? He's like, your family and then some friends will show up to your funeral if they're not busy. And then after that, you've got a legacy. Yeah, but seriously, do what counts now. Do what you want to do. Do what you love doing for you and your family. Do what is purposeful to you. Try fucking hard. Do everything that's difficult because that's what the choice of life is, like the juice of life. If you're not doing the hard things, if you're not trying hard, what are you actually doing? You're trying to stay with the little weeds and not stand out from the crowd, which for me just sounds ludicrous and sounds like the most quiet desperation version of life I could imagine.
Yeah, and no one wants that. Truly, no one. They don't want to
None.
admit it. No one wants to live that, and it's as you said. Yeah, I've experienced plenty of those moments where people, are, oh, this
Oh
guy's a
God, yeah.
technician. Rah, rah, rah. I'm so happy now to trigger people because I can
Yeah.
hold that. I can hold that projection of anyone that's like whatever they need to say. As you said, they send a nasty DM or calling me out for doing this or talking behind my back. I'm like,
Mm,
cool. You're the one that's triggered about your shit. I'm just your mirror. So if I
100%.
need to be that guy that needs to mirror people in their shit, I've now fully accept. And this was the big integration that I talked about the other day, bro, where because I'm going to be working with men and I realized that. And then I get that message from the bloke that calling me fake and a user and all these things.
Mhm,
I knew that wasn't true.
mhm,
My instant reaction was also, though, first reaction was like, fuck you, because
mhm.
that's not true. But then it was like, hey, I get it. I've just made him feel a certain way because I called him on his shit. I was probably the first person to do it.
Hold the
Yeah,
mirror up.
exactly. I go,
Yeah,
oh,
like
here you go. Have a
literally
look at this.
100%. And
Have a
what's
look at yourself
happening
in the
there
mirror.
is, from my experience and your experience for the same exact thing, is I'm sorry that you looking at my life and me doing what I'm doing and being successful in that space is pointing out what you want to do and you haven't done yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, and to add to that, I want you to come. I want you to come with me. Like, I want you to find your own success or do exactly what I do. I give away, dude, the amount of people that hit me up to say, Trav, how do you start a podcast? And I
Mm,
just say exactly like this. This is how you do it. I'm going to build a course around it, obviously,
mm.
but it's, I will give away everything for free when I'm asked for it.
Yeah,
What I won't give away for free is my time, though. So
exactly right.
if people want to work with me, I'm like, yeah, you are going to pay me because the amount of energy and effort I put into this shit, it is well worth me getting paid for. So,
Mm.
and people will question that too, right? As we said before, coming back to the whole like helping people, or are you truly helping people if you're getting paid for it? Yes. Because if we're not getting paid, I don't get to live. I don't get to look after my family, feed my dog, help my girlfriend. You know, I have a house I live in, there's rent to be paid. Do I not get to look after myself before I look after others?
You can help more people the more money you make. That's the thing people miss is, okay, if I'm flat broke and I've got no money, I can't pay my bills, I can't feed my son, everyone else can get fucked. All I care about is making enough money to feed my child. That's the number one thing in the world. If you have plenty of money, that's covered. Who else can I help with this money? And you can branch out and be philanthropic and you can help so many more people if you just solve that problem. I tell people all the time, like, people care only about money when they have none of it. People have plenty of it, can care about a lot of things and actually genuinely care and genuinely give their time to things. But if you're flat broke, you need to work 80 hours a week doing something you hate for 10 bucks an hour, you can't do anything to help anybody.
Yeah, dude, you nailed that. And it's knowing that also I have so much compassion for everyone because I was there too, where we know no better.
Mm-hmm.
We are, if you look at the Matrix, anyone that's watched the Matrix, Toddy said this last night, shifting the Matrix. It is literally like you're born in that goo sack and you are just thrusted into this world and saying, here you go to school, do this. This is how it works. You pay taxes, you do this. This is how it must be. And you
That's
just don't
brilliant.
question it until one day someone like me grabs that fucking thing at the back of your neck and pulls it out. And then you get to see the whole world, not just this narrow view of what you've been told it is. And it's pretty scary in the beginning. I don't know about you, bro, but when you realize the deceit that goes on and the system that's being built around us, were you a bit like, whoa, what's going on?
Oh yeah, really. And I was very nihilistic. I was like, okay, wow, the schooling system exists for that, and taxes exist for that. And the government has an agenda. They're not just good people who are just doing it for fun. They're actually all people with an agenda that they're trying to achieve. And I became very nihilistic, especially during the COVID times. I was like, do I love this country anymore? I'm like, I loved being an Aussie. I was obsessed with Australia. I was so patriotic. And I'm like, okay, this systematically rot everywhere you look, and ultimate power corrupts ultimately. So, are there any good people in the world? And then I had to bring it all back and be like, yes, there are. You deal with them every single day. People that rise to the top, corruption is very big, obviously, because they're influenced by power and donors and things like that. So, I really struggled with nihilism, and I was like, screw this. We're going to move. We're going to build a commune in Noosa or something. We're just going to live on that, grow our own food, screw all this. But we've come back from that. Still open to the commune idea. We're still looking at building something like that and just going, you know what, we're getting off grid. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but you got to realize, okay, well, you got to survive in this system anyway. There is goods and bads to it. Like, you need taxes to a degree. You need to have nice roads and healthcare and stuff. So yeah, it's a constant flow back and forth. But I got really down in it when COVID hit and all gyms shut down and they're pushing all these policies and this stuff. And I'm just like, you weren't there for me when I was 17 and I lost my mother and I was practically homeless, I was on the street. Where were you then to keep me safe? But now you have all these measures. You can keep me safe from, I can't say too much on this platform, probably get censored, but yeah, keep me safe from this
Oh,
thing
bro,
that I'm
you
not
can say what
scared
you
about
want.
one bit. Like, there's no way in the world this thing's going to hurt me, but now you're here to keep me safe. Something's fishy.
Yeah, nah, it just makes no sense. And it sucks that we can't speak more on it, right? I mean, we can, but at the risk of, oh, you said this, we're going to deplatform you. And
Yes.
I'm so passionate about it and I always talk about it. There's one thing that really pissed me off lately was that they're basically thrusting all the blame on us now.
Mm.
They literally said, if you took it, it's your own fault. If you
Yeah.
took the jab, then that's on you and you got sick. We are avoiding any responsibility in this,
Mm.
even though they literally made people lose jobs if they didn't get it and all this other bullshit. Um, and, respect to anyone that did, because I know like it was a tough time to navigate anything, right?
Mm.
But again, like you said, it was so hard not to get caught up in, are they serious? They're doing this. People suck. I went down the rabbit hole of all the pedophiles and stuff, and
Mhm.
you just get caught up in it so easy. But now I realize, literally last night, bro, I'm learning this epic information from Shay, who runs Earth Heroes TV. And have you heard about the 26,000 year cycle?
No, tell me.
Holy crap. Now I'm going to butcher this, but I need anyone listening to get onto this and look into the 26,000 year cycle. I'm not going to be able to tell it as good as Shay is. Please go to Shay's workshop he's got coming up around it. It goes for 2 hours. Um, Basically, there's a point right now, bro. And I'll
Mm.
send you the picture if I'll show it, if I find it, sorry, where basically the sun and the moon at a certain degree in our solar system that we are experiencing so much light on Earth that everything is lit up. Why do you think so many people are doing holistic healing and dealing with their shit? It's because for the first time in like 26,000 years, everything's lined up. We're in the golden age right now
Wow.
in the universal system. If you look at it, it's all scientific, bro. It's ancient knowledge that they figured out thousands of years ago that today's modern society is still trying to figure out how they figured this out. Like, how did the Mayans create those temples and the
Mhm.
Mayan calendar that talked about 2012, right? And that 2012 wasn't the end of days. It was actually the start of something. So it's almost like we are in the golden age right now where there's so much light physically, as in it's brighter than it's ever been. The moon's brighter than it's ever been when it hits. But also in our world, we are seeing everything. So we're seeing the corruption, we're seeing the deceit, we're seeing the evilness, but we're
Mm.
also seeing the beauty. So it's this polarity, and we live in polarity of the opposite ends of things. Everything's polarity. Um, Basically, we're being forced to look at our shit, and
Mm.
I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to the fact that we've all recently just been through some tough times at the start of this year, right? And there's all this like, oh, it's cost of living's hectic and all this other shit going on, and that's for good reason because it's all got light on it right now, and we have to go through this cycle right now to get to the next stage. But there's going to be some serious elevation of people, man. Like if you talk about woo woo and spirituality, that
Mm.
shit right now, if you tap into it, you could have anything you want because manifestation, that stuff is legit.
Oh
There's
yeah.
so many things we don't see that are within the ether, which is the in between of all the particles as what we are. So we're 99% energy. So is everything around us. The little piece that we can't see, or sorry, Shay was saying we only see a little bit of it. The rest of it that exists in parallel universes at the same time we're living right now, that shit's literally happening while you and I are talking.
Mm.
So you're pulling things out of the ether by speaking it, by doing it, by becoming it. So, I mean, that's a lot to take in. But I was last night sitting there listening to Shay, just so passionate and talking about it. I thought, holy crap, I need to get this guy. And he's coming on the podcast. But
Awesome.
dude, look into the 26,000 year cycle and everything I just explained. Then do you feel something in you that you're like, yeah, that makes sense?
100%. Like it's like an enlightening period. Enlightening period. People
Yeah.
are seeing behind the curtain, and you're truly right. And that's why I feel like it's getting harder to convince people of things. The old narrative of mainstream media, we're breaking through that now with things like podcasts, with things like the internet to get more information out there. Mainstream media's lost their pull, and all of a sudden, all their big money backers are paying all this money for ad space, but no one's watching anymore because then we know we're sponsored. We know where you're sponsored from. We know why you're getting paid to do the things you're doing. So you can't say anything negative against all your sponsors. You have to sell their narrative. So I truly think we're in an enlightening period, mate, and that makes perfect sense. A 26,000 year cycle. Check that
Yeah,
puppy.
it's I'll probably put it in the show notes because if I've talked about it now, I'll put something up on my Instagram as well because honestly, it was life changing last night
Mm.
hearing this stuff, and it all made sense because people try to say that spirituality and science are two different things, but they're not. They're literally the exact same thing. When you
Yeah.
look at it, it's being scientifically proven that this, and this, which I won't explain, you need to go listen to Shay. It all makes sense. So knowing moving forward, I'm seeing things happen now, right? I was one of my best sources of news is TikTok. Now,
Yeah.
the reason it is because it doesn't have bans on seeing the real shit, the
Mhm.
things that are actually going on. You can search, dude. There's things. Did you know in Rockhampton right now, there's like a vigilante group of people going around getting all the kids that are like stealing cars and stuff?
No, I did not.
Literally, this one boss dude who's a fighter or something, they broke into his sister's place and I think hurt the kids or something or scared the kids. And he's like, nah, fuck this, I've had enough. So he rocked up to their house to deal with these kids, these 15, 16-year-olds, with a whole group of people because they just had enough and the cops were protecting the kids. Now,
No.
I can understand that you don't want grown adults beating the shit out of kids, obviously, but they've just had enough. So they've got
Mm,
this whole, and you can see almost the whole town and city is like, we've had enough. Something needs to change. We need to get more help for these kids or shift something because it's just not good enough. So to see this epic collective come together, I think that's what we're going to see moving forward too.
I agree.
Right. So that's exciting, man. So,
Yeah.
dude, for you moving forward, I'd love to first do a little tech topics with the tech.
Oh yeah.
So quick fire questions just to get as much value from you because you are just value packed and you've just smashed this episode.
Hit me.
Um, so we'll go through. I've got some here. So first one, what inspired you to start your own business and how did you get your start in the industry? We've already gone through that. What's some of the biggest challenges you faced as a business owner and how did you overcome them?
Learning how to be a business owner. So learning finances, something I never really want to focus on. I always kind of, like you said, attracted money, had abundant mentality. Getting pulled into that scarcity mindset sometimes has always been a big challenge for me. It disrupts my flow with all this. The minute that, as we talk about needing to make money, the minute that I get into a scarce mindset where I'm like, oh, we're running out of something, we're going to struggle to pay our bills or this or that, I lose touch with the universe. I lose touch with what my true purpose is, which is helping people. All of a sudden, you start thinking about numbers. You're like, how do I make more of this to get through this? So that was a huge challenge for me. And my tip there again is make sure you can find a way to make money abundant. Is make sure that you don't think money's evil. The lack of having money and the effect it has on people is the root of all evil. Having money allows you to do more help for people. So that was a big challenge of mine.
Epic. Yeah, that's perfect, bro. Has there been a particularly difficult decision you've had to make in your business or in life? And how did you arrive at that decision?
Quitting footy, that was a tough one. So I arrived at that decision by realizing I was looking at it like a job, that I was hoping that my teammate played worse, so I went better. Realizing it was a very selfish individual pursuit, that it was all about me and my career, and everyone around you has to kind of facilitate that and support that compared to everyone just kind of living together and helping each other out. So that was a struggle. That was hard to come to that decision, but I decided in the end that I had options, that I always want to start business, that I always want to help people in other ways. So I quit footy, traveled, rest is history. And then within business, hard decisions would be, I guess, letting people go when they're not really hitting the point you need them to hit, where they're not helping people as much or they're failing in certain areas. For me, is that kind of savior complex is try and blame myself for absolutely everything in life and want to help everyone in life. But sometimes, like you said, you got to get out of their way. Sometimes they're not in the right position anyway. It's not for them. So yeah, learning that you made the mistake by hiring them and putting them in the wrong position and that you got to move them on.
Perfect. How do you stay up to date with industry trends and emerging technologies? And what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who want to stay ahead of the curve?
Great one. My team. So I've got a great team. I'm not a very tech heavy person by any
Hmm.
stretch. Algorithms and stuff are not what I enjoy doing. I love doing this. And then from here, um, one of my team, Sarah, she's amazing. She'll go away, she'll cut it up, she'll put all the subtitles on, stuff like that. Cam, my business partner, he's brilliant when it comes to spreadsheets and numbers and all that kind of thing. So I say if you don't enjoy it, if you don't love doing it, you don't want to spend a lot of hours doing it, the more successful you become, you'll have to do more and more of those types of things. I recommend surrounding yourself with people who love doing it and share more of the pie.
Love that. What's been the hardest thing you've had to realize about yourself during business?
That I self-sabotage.
Hmm.
Yeah, that I enjoy the struggle. That's probably my emotional home, like you said, from a lot of my life. So understanding that you don't have to let or create problems that are negative to feel that struggle, and learning that you can create positive adversity through physical and new business ventures and things like that, rather than just making what you've got worse. make it better and then stack more difficult things in front of yourself. So you always feel like, because I need to be climbing a mountain at all times. I'm not climbing a mountain, I'm coming down the mountain and the bottom's not good. So for me, I just got to keep on putting layers on top of the mountain and making sure, okay, everything's rosy. Cool. How about we start filming 10 videos a week on this topic that you need to learn more about? You got to stretch yourself, or do jiu-jitsu 5 days a week and have guys try and choke you out, and be good at everything else in your life, be a novice at that, and lose to guys who are 20 kilos lighter than you and you think you should be able to beat, but you can't. Like, find ways to humble yourself, find ways to struggle. So I feel like I have adversity, which I do, but it's positive adversity. It's not that I need to let things fall apart to put them back together.
I love that. Do you know much about human design?
No, I'd love to hear about it.
I feel like you're a manifesting generator. So you just get shit done. Like, you're a go, execute, do the things. I believe I'm a projector, which essentially I'm the kind of guy that'll work 3 hours a day and I'll feel happy about that. So
Okay.
it's like but it's very efficient time. So rather than me stretching out a whole day of work, I could probably get that whole day of work done in 3 or 4 hours.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So but my level of work's probably different to yours. So your daily goals and the amount of stuff you can get in is probably way higher. But for me, I've got that little, it's like a hill for me, not a mountain, that I can get done in that amount of time. And I'm like, okay, cool, I've done heaps today. You know what I mean? So I'd be called almost lazy by standards in culture. When you look at blokes that do like a 12, 14-hour day, which I used to do, for years. I was a laborer. I was a laborer operator doing stuff in civil. And I'd be the guy that has to fucking throw hail bales into the swamp all day, 60-kilo hail bales out the back of a truck. And I would happily do that. And I actually really enjoyed it because the endorphins you got from working hard. But then I realized as I moved forward and became an entrepreneur and doing the things I do, man, I'm pretty lazy when you look at the standards but I'm still showing and finding my own success.
Who
You know,
defines the standards? You know what I mean? Like, the expectation of 8 or 12-hour work days, it's just someone else's enjoyment or view of success. So like, people need to figure out, what do I enjoy doing, and work as little or as much as they enjoy.
Yeah, I love that. One of the best things I've heard from Andy Frisella. He's a big mentor of mine that I listen to. And have you heard of his power list?
No.
So Andy's belief is that the guy that can get shit done consistently every day of the week, every month, every year will overcome anyone that tries to do all the shit all the time. Because if you show up every single day, so he says he picks 5 things every day. If he finishes those 5 things by 9 a.m., he's done for the rest of the day. So he knows that the next day he's had an epic day going to the gun range, playing golf and stuff. He shows up the next day, does 5 more like tough things. If they're done, they're done, and that means he can consistently show up. And essentially, if you had a guy going to the gym, you can attest to this. If there's a guy going to the gym training, 6 days a week and not busting himself so where he's sore all the time, rather than the guy that comes in for 3 days a week and just destroying himself, who will get the better results at the end of it?
100%, man. The guy who's looking after himself and he's not trying to flog it. And the key there is consistency. I think is the biggest thing you're mentioning there. Is, don't try and do everything in a sprint. It's a marathon. Life is a marathon, and life is an infinite game. Most things we go into are infinite games. Simon Sinek puts this really well. He talks about finite games and infinite games. And he says that most people look at things like marriage or business or health as a finite game. They think, I'll get healthy and then I've won. I'll get married and then it's all over. I will start a business and it's all over and it's all set. It's like, no, there are infinite games you're applying finite rules to. Instead, the goal of marriage is to stay married and stay happily married. The goal of business is to stay in business. The goal of health is to get to health and stay healthy. They're infinite games that you're applying finite rules to. They never stop. So you've got to keep on keeping that ball up in the air. And however you approach that, it's up to you. But consistency will always beat sprints.
I love that. What advice would you give to someone who is considering starting their own business? And what are some common pitfalls in the beginning to avoid?
I would say find what you love doing. And it's not just like do what you love. Make sure it's monetizable. Make sure that you can make money from it if business is something you're getting into to make your life better. I would make sure that I'm very good with social skills. So I'd make sure that you can promote yourself. One of the biggest things, I think one of the questions you asked at the very start and answer it completely, was how did I pick up clients and be successful? Well, sociability and putting yourself on camera. If you don't like filming videos, film yourself 100 times. Don't show anyone. watch it back 100 times, just get over the awkwardness, because if you can put yourself on camera, it'll make you more relatable and more relevant to people and more vulnerable to people. And they'll watch your Instagram or your Facebook or whatever, and they get to know you, like you, and trust you before they buy from you. No one's going to buy anything from someone if all they're doing is putting up perfect, polished photos over and over and over and over again. They want to see the person behind the brand. Whatever business it is, get yourself in front of a camera, get over that awkwardness, film yourself, watch it back, get better at it, and execute on that.
Perfect answer. And just to finish up, bro, what do you got planned for 2023? Is there any big objectives for your business, yourself personally? What's coming up in the future?
Great question. I'm just loving being a father. That's one of the biggest things at the moment. Like every week, I'm just enjoying the week more and looking forward to the next thing. Like Tiff and I were talking about this morning, my wife, about how amazing Christmas is going to be this year, because he's going to be 18 months old. He's going to fully know he's getting presents and opening them up and stuff. So that is a big thing for me, is being the greatest father possible. My greatest role in life now, my greatest goal in life right now is how can I be the man that he wants to grow up to be? We talk about making footy players role models and, oh, he wasn't a good role model for my son. It's like, no, fuck that. You're the role model for your son. I'm the role model for my son. Like, I want to be his hero. I want him to look at me and be like, I want to be like my dad, not I want to be like The Rock or Arnold Schwarzenegger or that footy player. It's like, you should be the man that your son wants to become a man. You know what I mean? Like I should be his goal. So my biggest goal in life right now is to show up and have emotional regulation and integrity and values and never lie, and show him that I can be that person. And that's all he sees growing up. So he becomes that person. So that's number one. That's a big one.
I love that. That's an epic answer.
Yeah, that's my hugest goal. And the beauty of that is that flows into everything else. So on the back of that is improving my business, systemizing it, being a better leader for my team, being a better husband for my partner, looking after my health better, drinking less alcohol, little things like that. But they all stack up to being that man I want to be for him. So if I can make him my North Star and the person that I want to be for him to become, then I'm going to improve everything else. And business will just explode on the back of that, I guarantee it.
Epic, bro. And also, how can people find you to connect with you on, socials and that sort of thing?
Yeah, thanks, brother. So if anyone wants to connect with me, TJ_transform40. I'm sure most things you see on this will all be tagged. But yeah, I'm mostly on Instagram and Facebook, building up TikTok at the moment. Transform40 is the handle for my business. But yeah, connect with me if you have any questions on anything we talked about today. I just love sharing it. Like you said, I give away everything for free. I don't really offer a whole lot of coaching right now, but it's something I'm doing in the future. But for now, I'd be happy to just have conversations. And if you're in pain, if my story related to you in some way, and you're in that moment right now, I promise you I've got some tools that will get you out of it. So reach out to me. I'll see what I can do.
Epic, bros. Thank you so much for this. This episode is nuts. Like hour and a half just went by like nothing. Just realized
Wow.
I've got a client in about 30 minutes. So
No dramas, brother. No, thank you so much, Travis, for having me on, brother. It was a very enlightening conversation. And every time I have these convos, even though like we're kind of sharing knowledge, I'm learning so much. You know what I mean? Like even just by putting it back out in the world, it gets more entrenched in me. So I'm so grateful for you for having me. It's been, a great learning. I want to sit down and write down a whole bunch of stuff I went over, because it's all fresh in my mind again. You taught me some things that I'll remember. So thank you so much.
likewise, bro. I've taken so much from that. And that's how it works, right? The energetic exchange and meeting like-minded people. So yeah, thank you, bro. I appreciate you.
It's been awesome, brother. Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.